Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked. Brad and I are doing our top 5 disappointing games of 2024. Not every game can be a banger. And unfortunately, there are certain games that come out every year that don't quite meet up to our expectations of, you know, what we think they might have been. Now, this list is always kind of interesting because I feel like whenever, at least for me, when people see disappointing, they assume that you think the game is trash.
Right.
I don't think any of these games are bad, actually, on this list. But
Agreed.
um, there were either expectations or just something about them that as you kept playing it, or it just kind of didn't really work for you one way or another. In
Yeah.
fact, I still own one of these games. It could just be a multitude of reasons why it would be on here. Now the other list will be you can go watch those games. We have no redeeming qualities, um, and that's the go watch that if you want to hate us for something. But
Yeah. I have two on this list that I still own.
okay,
So we'll see
yeah.
how it goes.
Now whether or not how long we own them, it might be
Right.
different, but Uh, yeah, let's just hop right in with an honorable mention for me. And I think the way I kind of rank these is that obviously the higher up on this list we go, the more disappointed I am, or the higher the expectations I had
Yes.
going into playing them.
Yes. Exactly.
Uh, this one, funny enough, I had tempered expectations, and this is really through no fault of the designers. Um, it's just that her game that she started out with was so good, everything else kind of fails in comparison. So my number 6 is Undergrove. Now, I don't think this game is bad by any means, just like I don't think any of the other games are bad between Mariposas and Fox Experiment. But this one just kind of felt like it was designed because she wanted to make one about mushrooms or fungi. The over because I knew you just got this right.
Yes.
I'm assuming you didn't crack it open
No,
as soon
not
as you
yet.
could. Um, There, like the quality of the game is really nice. If you have like the deluxe edition where the tiles are wooden and everything is like wooden and it seems like it's meant to be eco-friendly and all that, that's really cool. The overall kind of gameplay just feels like I don't know. I almost feel like all of her games should be designed like Wingspan, but with a new theme
Yes.
because in this you have a hand of these fungi cards that you're kind of putting out adjacent to other fungi to be able to eventually have those little tokens, those root tokens, pointing to it so that you can score it. And the not acorn, pine cones are the victory points. And I mean, for the most part, that's kind of it. There's not really much going to for it. I again think it looks really nice, but after playing it, I I just wasn't as enthralled to ever really hop into it. The systems in the game of actions are kind of just overall whatever. Like, and I'm trying not to be super reductive with games because you could do that with any amazing game and just be like, well, all you do is draw cards. You know how people do that to try and belittle someone for liking something. Uh, I think this is a perfectly serviceable game, but because it has Elizabeth Hargrave's name on it, it continues to kind of fail to be amazing. Like with Mariposas or Fox Experiment, they just kind of are like, well, and I'm not even comparing it to Wingspan. It's just that Wingspan to me worked so well for other game, like for that type of game. I just almost wish there was more involved.
So is there
So,
like a Last of Us mini expansion that's going to come out for this?
actually, I don't like there are a decent amount of fungi, and they do an awesome job of having a booklet with
Yeah,
fun facts about them, but it's kind of like maybe I do like bird facts a little bit more than I thought because I don't give a shit about
yeah,
mushrooms. That'd be funny though if there was the cordyceps in here.
yeah.
I would imagine there would be.
Oh, you would think there would be, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious to know what your thoughts are when you finally get it played. Uh, but out of all the games that have come out with her name on it, this one is probably my least favorite.
Yeah, this one, like the theme of this does absolutely zero for me. The main
Uh-huh.
reason I got it was because my wife wanted it. So, give it a shot and
Yeah,
see how it goes.
yeah. So that's my number six, Undergrove.
All right, my number six is a game from a company that we both like a few of their games, not all their games. But this was one that I don't own this one. I played another buddy of mine's copy a few times, and it is from the same company and it has its own universe. It's the role player universe, um, and that is the Stonespine Architects.
Okay.
Um, this one, you know, Thunderworks, the role player adventures, role player, uh, cartographers, those are all really sharp ones. But then they've dropped some that either are suck or
Mm-hmm.
this one's kind of middling. And it sounds like this one would be fun. And it's not that it's not necessarily horrible, but it's pretty much it's a drafting game. You're drafting cards and you're building a dungeon, and
Okay.
then you're spending gold in the middle of rounds to put monsters and traps and crap in your dungeon, and you win if you have the most perilous dungeon at the end of the deal. And
So Dungeon Lords.
more or less, but it's like, I mean, it sounds cool, but then it's just not. It just doesn't grab. At least it didn't grab me
Yeah.
like it was going to. I mean, I like the universe that all that stuff's in there. I don't know if it's the role player or the cartographer's universe. I don't know which one what they call it, but
Yeah.
I think it's the role player
I think
universe.
it's role player because it says a role player tale
Oh, okay,
underneath
gotcha.
the name.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, I don't know. It's almost too simplistic as well. Like, it's a
Okay.
very simple game. If I was going to play something like this where you're creating something, I think cartographers works better because it has just the physical being able to draw stuff and all that
Yeah,
kind of
it
stuff,
it looks like they have similar scoring cards like
Right.
for like cartographers. And
Hmm.
I actually recently replayed cartographers like a couple weeks ago and I was like, man, this game just is super solid. So I'm not surprised. Basically anything Thunderworks that's not specifically role player, I
Hmm.
don't really get from them.
Yeah, because like the Dawn of Ulos and all those different ones that they put
Yeah.
out, and the jail one wasn't very good, I didn't
Yeah.
think, and stuff.
Lockout,
Yeah,
lockdown, lockout.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it was just one of those things. Like, I would play it again. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not that I hate this game. Like, that's why it's my honorable mention. But it's just
Yeah.
there's a
I guess
lot I
that's
would
a good
rather play.
yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I would play all of these.
Hmm. Me
Like
too.
given if someone one of mine is actually kind of weird because well, we'll get there, but it definitely deserves to be on on this list.
Right.
Um all right. My number 5, there's actually two games on this list that are on here because as you continue to play them, they just kind of got worse and worse. And it's definitely the case for this one. Now, for the other one, it hits a little bit harder. And this was more of a concept game that I'd be so surprised if people have stuck with it past the first like year in the game. My number 5 is
Interesting.
Mythwind. So this is kind of, to me at least, it's the first genre. or game in the genre that was like it's a cozy game. It wanted to be your Animal Crossing Stardew Valley style game where you just kind of continuously play this forever. And that just doesn't really it, I mean technically it works because you can continue to play this, but would you? Um, the artwork that's in the game is gorgeous. The setup of it is brilliant because it's just kind of it's in this box that you just kind of like take all the trays out and just set them out one by one, and you'll have these buildings that you have crafted in this little forest area. It has some semblance of a story, like some fairy kind of woodland creature story, but I mean, it's the story is about as full as you could fill like a bar napkin. And it's like, all right, there we go. There's our concept. And they have these characters that while they do play different, don't ever continue to play different. They play different from one another, and they all have their own book on what they do. But after you've done what they do for like I said, a year in game, that's it. So the idea of being able to perpetually play this sounds so intriguing, and it has a lot of like buzzwords that make you people like me get like really excited about it. But then you play it and you're like, oh yeah, that's why no one's done this because it doesn't work. Um, at least in the long run. And I mean, they have like a crafting system of whenever you're getting buildings, but the buildings never really get super exciting. I think I've realized that as you play campaign games, you want to perpetually grow it. I mean, even in games like Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing, there's an overall goal to finish the game. Like Animal Crossing, it's you finally pay off all your debt, which is real life goal. And then you upgrade your house as large as it can be. But I mean, pretty much once you do that, no one's really going to Animal Crossing to see the same dialogue.
Right.
Stardew Valley, I think you're trying to uh what are you trying to do in Stardew Valley?
No idea.
I've never played all the way through.
I haven't either.
Um, my ex-wife played it nonstop. You think maybe that's why we got divorced? I wasn't paying enough attention on Stardew Valley. Um, we, but there is a end game to it, and typically you start over. But unfortunately, this game doesn't have much meat to it. Uh, the bones are here, which is unfortunate because this concept could really work if it was. This is like a perfect live service game where if the board game had the ability to kind of pump constant updates
Mhm.
to it, but you just don't. So it is what it is. I did like this game a lot when I first played. If I had stopped after like two plays, it probably would hit my top 10 of the year. But then you keep playing and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
So that's my
All right.
number five, Mythwind.
All right. My
Beautiful
number.
game though.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, it looks like it. All right. My number five is another kind of easy to learn game, light game, whatever. But it's on this list because people have been going bonkers for this game this year. Every podcast I listen to, everything they love this game. And when I play it, all I pretty much feel is I've played this before. I've played Takedo. You know,
oh,
like it's the same kind of deal, just with a little bit different stuff. And that's let's go to Japan.
interesting. Okay. I've
Have you
played
have
Teotihuacan.
well, I
No,
mean that's what it
I
is
wanted
theme
this
wise.
because the production looks amazing. It looks like they hit the theme like right on the head.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's what I'm saying. That's another reason why it's on this list. I would play this. It's a super easy game
Yeah,
to learn, super easy game to play. It's not doesn't take that long to play.
yeah. It's
Um,
probably going to make me want to go to Japan even more than I do. And then it's like I
right.
can't afford it.
But the thing is it's like I mean, you know me, I don't like I mean, I know this is current Japan stuff, but Takedo to me was, you're traveling to Kyoto or whatever, and you're stopping at different things and trying to have the best little trip too. That's what this game is.
Oh,
There's
okay.
just different mechanisms, and you are there's like, gosh, 12, 13 rounds, something like that, and you're drawing different cards like activities and stuff that you're doing, and you are like building an itinerary is what you're doing.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's where it's different from that, because you're placing cards out in all these places, planning your trip, and then at the end, after all those rounds, then you take your trip and you see
Okay.
how many points you get and stuff.
All right.
It looks a lot busier than
Yeah, that does look super
Takedo. It's super
complex.
simple. It's like, but you are uh so pretty much, after the final round, you go on your planned trip, and then you just score all the points from everything you've kind of laid out for your itinerary.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things. Like, I mean, I say it's simple, but the mechanics of this game don't grab me. Like, and I'm not saying Takedo has the greatest mechanics in the world, but Takedo
Yeah.
had that interesting, like, the movement track. I don't know how it is like.
That's the one that lets you go as far as you want, but you can't go back.
Right,
Okay.
right. And then but then if you're behind, that's how you keep doing your turns until you
Yeah.
catch up. I mean, I kind of like that additive thing. This one's just kind of, you're just laying out cards, planning your trip, and then you go on your trip. Not
Okay.
bad, but it's just not what I don't think it is with the hype, because I wanted to play this game. Everybody
Yeah.
was like, "Oh God, you got to play this game! It's the best thing in the world," and it was okay. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just, and that's really, the art's kind of cool on the cards. They do a good job
Yeah.
with the artists.
Do they have like little facts on them underneath?
Um,
Is that what all that wording is? All that
well,
tiny, tiny wording underneath?
yeah, there is a little bit on it. Yeah, that I think that's
Okay.
what those were. I've played it twice, and I don't
Yeah.
really remember. I just used the mechanics because
Okay.
the second time I played it, I really was just going through the motions.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, I think there's little stories about the stuff on there, because it's supposed to be like a description of of the activity. I think is what's on there
Okay.
and stuff like that. So I mean, it's worth a try, definitely. And
Yeah,
I know there's the Kickstarter version of this. I think
there
there's a
is.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It's really fancy. It's got, like, I think it has like these little bowls and stuff and
Yeah.
everything.
That's the
Um,
reason why I haven't picked it up is because I want the deluxe version, but I also don't want to pay the
yeah,
cost of because it's like, at this point, I don't really care.
I mean, it's just a components upgrade, really. It's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with it being as light of a game as it is, I would just, the retail version is plenty fine, I would
That's
think.
true.
But
Yeah, I don't know if it came with any extra cards. It's funny with the title that they have, AEG kind of can do this for any
that's the
country.
plan.
Let's go to
Yeah,
Europe. Let's
that's their
go to
plan. They were talking. The designer was on a podcast, and I think that's kind of what they're leaning into,
yeah.
is
The
going around the
Europe
world.
one, I might like, let's go to Germany. I'd be like, okay, I might grab. So it could be cool if you have, cultural, heritage somewhere that you can dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yep.
But all right. Well, my number four is a game that you and I actually played quite a bit together this year, and it's there's a lot that's really good about this game. And I ended up getting rid of this one because I just have too many other games in the genre that I would rather play. But the the overall experience that we had kind of just rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. Now, again, this is probably my favorite game on this list, in terms of mechanisms, but by the end of the campaign, I was checked out, and that is
Yeah.
Primal The Awakening. Again, this is a fantastic boss battler if you do not ever touch the campaign.
Yes.
Like, as a one shot, whatever they called it, excursion or expedition, where you can kind of just pick a boss and um wow, whatever the word I'm trying to think of, and whoo, it's like on the tip of my tongue, where you are experimenting,
Yes.
where you can experiment with your build. that's going to be where this game sings. But unfortunately, we played it as a campaign, and that campaign is hot shit. It's so bad. Um, the story, I think I quit reading at a certain point.
Yep.
Um, the idea of just picking a boss to fight it once and leave it alone, I would never have thought I'd say, I wish there was grind in this game. It makes you kind of appreciate why Monster Hunter exists and why KDM exists because, yeah, grinding's. I have a whole video on Isofarian Guard and the grind. Now, so I'm not saying grinding is needed in games, but in this one, whenever you fight, a monster in the campaign, just to be like, oh, okay, that one's gone, and then it opens up the forge of that element, and
Mhm.
then you kind of look through stuff, and you're like, yeah, this is all amazing. I'm not going to craft any of it because we already have our builds, and I
Yes.
can't combine items. Now, that'll never sit right with me, getting to take one item, and the items are cool. Every time we would look at the new stuff and be like, oh, that sounds amazing. Why would
Yep.
we craft that? Um, and I know what people are gonna say. Oh, well, you craft it because when you fight the monsters a lot, you learn their pattern. It's like, yeah, I understand that. I understand you want to get the coral spear to help you with mounting because when you fight certain monsters, you can do that a lot easier. Or maybe there's an enemy that the feather gun and the whatever the boomerang thing isn't going to work again. So now you have that, and that would work if you fought the monsters over and over,
Right.
where you fight them with your current build, and then you get your ass beat, and you're like, shit, all right, well, let's try and restructure because we have to fight it again because we want its parts. And they probably were just trying to make it a smaller footprint, not a grind fest that Monster Hunter from Steamforge probably is. Um, and that's a positive. But yeah, by the end of this campaign, literally whenever they do a questionnaire over their lore, like please pay attention to it. We worked so hard. Maybe they did, or maybe
Yes.
they listened to a 10-minute Monster Hunter lore dump video and just changed names around. But and those questions didn't even matter. Like it wasn't like they gave you anything for getting them right. Uh yeah, and I mean literally like my top 10 of the year, and when we start talking about our top 100, I'm a massive NDCG guy, narrative driven campaign.
Yes.
uh this just sucked, and for how big it is and how bulky it is, the card play and the even the four quadrant section, that small footprint works. The way you play cards is awesome. The actual game systems here are completely unique. But if I want to do one shot boss fights, I'll just play Townsfolk Tussle or Leviathan Wilds, stuff like that. They're a lot quicker to get to the table. So it is unfortunate that this is on this list and not my top 10 of the year. If I had just played this kind of as one shots, to experiment with different builds and weapons and all that, I could see this easily making the top 10, but we only did it as a campaign, and it just kind of kept getting worse and worse. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but we did not do one of the final fights. Like we did the fight finale, which actually
Yes.
wasn't that bad. It could have been a lot worse, but like the fight before that, we just skipped it because there was no reason to
Yep.
fight another monster. So,
Yeah.
and some of those monsters are bullshit. I know one big thing that you didn't like is the round track. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and having boss systems, like creature mechanisms that focus on that. Like, I think it was the fire cat that, like, once it hits a certain phase, it's like, oh, set the round track to 3. It's like, okay, no,
Yeah.
that's horrible.
Yeah. Because I
So,
mean, the game, some of those bosses are brutal enough
yeah.
to stay alive, let alone adding the time element to it, and it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
this was one that I was really excited to play when you asked if I
Hmm.
wanted to do the campaign and stuff, because because I really hadn't done a ton of boss battlers over
Yeah.
the years, and your character really feels cool when you're
Yeah.
playing them. I mean, the guy you were doing was bouncing all over the damn place and shooting guns. I had this big, had to take a bunch of damage, but I got stronger the more damaged I was. So I was
Yeah.
teetering with that.
I just imagine at the end of every fight, you were just like the Hulk, just only shorts and
Right,
just
right.
ripped and roided out. Yeah, and we played completely different. But unfortunately, because it's the campaign, you get into a rhythm of your build, and it's like, why fix what ain't broke? I'm not incentivized to change.
Yeah, because I had the exact same sword the entire campaign.
Hmm.
I just upgraded the style of it, but it was
Yeah.
the same weapon.
And that's not a bad thing. That makes
Right.
it means every weapon that we looked at, it was like, oh, that's good. Like the fire gun, for
Mhm.
example, put a bunch of dot tokens, so whenever the boss would reshuffle its deck, it would take a bunch of damage. And it's like that's so fascinating. Just give some incentives in a campaign to kind of
Yeah.
change your build. Um, so if you're looking to get this, I can definitively say it is worth getting. The game is good, just the campaign is so disappointing.
I would agree.
And that's my number four, Primal The Awakening. It's kind of funny though, because as we're talking about this, I'm like, man, the game is good.
It is. I mean, it
It's just,
was. It
yeah,
was. Yeah.
just this is a one of those niche cases where I just kept getting more and more sad and had no problem getting rid of it.
Well, it was so much reading. It wasn't that the writing,
Yeah.
because it was the double whammy, because not only was the story and the writing weird, but there was so much of it, and you can only do silly voices reading it so long.
I know, yeah.
It's
And
like,
again, I'm not a voice actor in any way. I do my best to, if I have to read out loud, I do my best to try and make it entertaining because I know I don't like to listen to people read out loud. And it's now with Foreteller and even some other companies like Plaid Hat who do their own in-house voice acting, it's almost a must. If you're doing a campaign game with a lot of narrative, fucking shell out the money to have someone read it. It doesn't even have to be professional. Like Madara's Act One is just some girl reading.
yeah,
It's like an audiobook, but man, I would burn that game if I had to read all that myself.
yeah,
And I sold this game because I had to read all that myself, and it was uninteresting.
yeah.
So,
All right.
yeah.
All right. Well, my number four is another game that is on a lot of people's hotness from this year. So I went into it. I'd heard things about this game, so I went into it a little aware of the possible issues, and then it ended up living up to those issues. So I ended up putting on this list. It's a two-player asynchronous game, not asynchronous, asymmetrical game.
Okay.
That you introduced me to a game a long time ago called Raptor, where
Yeah.
you were the scientists and the raptors, right? Well, this one is another one kind of in that vein a little bit, and that is Kelp, Shark versus
Did
Octopus.
that come out this year?
It did.
Wow. It went on Kickstarter this year too. So good
Yeah.
on Wonder. That was like Wonder Blow. That was my nickname in college.
God.
Wonder Bow or Wonder Bow. Good on them. They released it in the same year.
Yeah, yeah. This one was, I'd heard, well, here's to start off with. All the reviews I heard on this game, not all, most of the reviews I heard on this game said that it was very, very favored One Direction.
Oh,
The octopus would always win, is what people
okay.
were saying. And then I listened to another wheel. It's like, no, you need to do blah 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 blah. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna try this. A friend of mine has this. So I was like, we'll try it. And we played a couple of games of it. And I'll be damned if so far in a couple of plays, it's just been a complete ass whipping. The octopus is way overpowered in this
Yeah. That's
scenario because
interesting.
so what you're doing, and it's an interesting mix of mechanics, and that's why I wanted to try it because
Yeah.
you have this board, and
Wow.
uh,
Okay.
one person's controlling the octopus, one person's controlling the shark, obviously. But well, I guess the winning condition is the shark wins if they successfully attack the octopus. That's
Okay.
how the shark wins. Simple. Straightforward. They attack the
Yeah.
octopus, they win. The
Okay.
octopus wins by eating all four of the seafoods, or exhausting the shark, waiting it out until the shark exhausts, which is what
Okay.
happens most of the time. And so you're and it adds, like, the octopus isn't on the board all the time. Yeah, it's like a game of hide and
Oh,
seek. So the
okay.
octopus is like sneaking around. So it almost has kind of like a weird, like, bluffing, like trying to hidden movement kind of thing.
Yeah.
And and so you could get lucky, and just like any of
Right.
those kind of games like that, the hidden movement where the shark be like, I'm gonna, get you, and then that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. This
But
one,
yeah,
because these 1v1 asymmetric games, because the Hunt came out either, I think it was last year, and people raved about that one too, and it had a die element too for combat, and it's like in a 1v1 strategy game, why the fuck would you add randomness? That's weird. That's also in this.
well, and that's, yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. That it's, the sharks roll dice, and that's kind
Yeah.
of what helps them hunt down the elusive octopus. I mean, it's kind of, so you have the randomness of that, you have the hidden movement, you have the bluffing stuff. There's just, I don't know. I mean, the only reason I would try this game again is because I'm fucking determined to see if I can win with the shark. But then I feel like if you win with the shark, it's just going to be
Hmm.
you're going to pull something out of your ass and just get lucky.
Yeah.
Like, I can't figure out what the actual strategy is other than just getting lucky.
Yeah.
But mind you, I've only played twice. That's why it's still on this list, just because maybe there is something that you need to play it a lot, because I sucked at Raptor when we played Raptor.
Yeah.
But we only played it that one or two
But
times
there's
too.
also no luck in rap,
Right,
and there is, I guess, technically with the cards you draw,
right.
but there's the element of either using it, the using it for its number or its ability.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, there's almost no. I mean, there are obviously games that have no luck. I mean, if you want a 1v1 strategy game with no luck, play chess.
Exactly. Yep.
Um, but and so I understand that randomness kind of evens the playing field in games unlike like chess, where it's like if I just am better than you at chess, I'm just better than you at chess. There's nothing you can do. Uh, so I understand that there's randomness to that, but something about dice
Yeah.
are worse for me than a deck.
Well, and I have a feeling that they're going to be coming out with more in this series too.
I actually just looked it up and I saw there was a expansion for it as well.
Oh, okay.
And this one was kind of a weird genre anyway. Like I remember looking at it because I do like 1v1 games in this style, the asymmetric, I do something different and we've played one this year. It didn't come out this year, otherwise it would have been in the top 10, but Pagan
Mm-hmm.
is a 1v1 game where both sides are completely different. And that has a deck of cards. In fact, you deck construct in that game if you want. So, but yeah, it says like it's man versus shark versus octopus. This one says, what does that say? Man versus octopus? This must be the. I'm looking
Or
above the kelp. It looks
I
like
think
this is man
I
versus
think
octopus.
I think it's my. I think this is a foreign box. It looks like,
Oh, okay.
because it looks like my versus, because the octopus has an
Yeah.
OKT. So,
Oh, yeah, it does. Okay. The production quality looks really nice.
oh no, it's a great
Yeah.
game. I mean, that's the only reason. I mean, that's why I would go back to it, because it looks really cool and it's stuff. It's just having a game where it's so strong one side.
Hmm.
I mean, that kills a lot of games for me, because, like, way back in the day with Level 7 Omega Protocol,
Oh
that
God.
game.
Yeah.
I really wanted to like that game, but I could never win as the aliens ever. I played
Okay.
that game probably 20 times and I never won once
Yeah.
with them. So that, and I just got rid of it. Like, that annoys me when you go into it just knowing you're
Hmm.
gonna
Yeah.
fail.
There's a difference of it feeling like it's unbalanced, but it's really not.
Right.
Um, oh God, like Stronghold. is a great example.
Oh
If
yeah, yeah,
you're in the castle, you feel like there's nothing you can do, but that game is fine tuned. It, I mean, so yeah, yeah, I'm actually kind of not shocked that that's a complaint that people are having because for a company that I've never heard of, this publishing company, to get a game
hmm
in and out in the same year, it almost feels like they didn't have that much time left in the oven.
yeah,
So, well, good thing I avoided. I didn't really avoid it. I just looked at it and was like, eh,
yeah.
I don't really. Okay, a shark for. Why didn't they do a squid? Why didn't they do like the megalodon and the colossal squid or
Well,
something?
because I think the story of it, it's a special kind of shark. It's like a small shark. It's like
Oh, okay.
it's like a small type. Actually, I got it right. The pajama shark,
Oh,
and
okay.
then a common octopus. So that's what makes me wonder if they're going to do different pairings because this is kelp. That shark versus octopus, they could do kelp, whatever versus whatever,
That's
and just
true.
kind of do
Yeah.
different bounce offs. But who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought the same thing with like Kingdom Death. It's a Kingdom Death colon monster, and it's like, yeah, I don't know why the colon's there.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I'm curious actually about the comments on this one. If anyone says that if they're like,
it'd be interesting.
I
Yeah.
would like to know if people win consistently with the shark, or if there is a consistent winner, if there's a meta where it's like, well, the
Right.
shark can only they have to do this they have to
hmm
roll well.
Right.
All right, my number three is kind of a weird game, because it did come out this year for sure, but the game it's based on did not. This one was so infuriating. I very rarely do videos on the production of a game. Because normally it is what it is, and I move on because I don't really want to hear the flack from people. Like I again do this channel as a hobby. I don't really want to see people shit, like just go up in arms. Really, these top five disappointing and top five worst are like the pinnacle, where I'm just like, here we go.
Yeah.
I'll talk more on this one whenever I get to it. So my number three is the Teotihuacan City of Gods, the Deluxe Master Set. And this one I considered putting in worst because Board and Dice could not have given you a bigger middle finger of thank you for your money, you fucking ingrates, you see, than releasing this. And I have actually confirmation. If it was just me whining and, I was the only one who was upset or whatever, but I have confirmation that they know they fucked up. So if you're not familiar, Teotihuacan, I mean, is a amazing dice worker placement game, and they were coming out with a all-encompassing storage solution, deluxe components, everything like all the cardboard tiles were going to be like thick, like they're super thick wooden tiles. Um, every player character has like unique colored dice and uh, printed meeples and stuff. It was all going to be sexy, organized in this very nice, um, specifically designed insert. And what they gave you, and if you owned everything already, because there's three expansions for the game, if you owned everything, and you just wanted their beautification, hey, you already own everything. Thank you so much for the support, but you just want the deluxe components. You can get that, except you miss out on new content. There were certain tiles and certain boards that weren't included in that. And the storage solution, this was just blanket for whoever got it, was the worst vacuum sealed trays I had ever seen, with no way to actually. If you're going to come up with a massive storage solution, you need to provide a way to store it. Um, and now I'd rather have nothing at all than whatever Merchants of the Dark Road gave me. um, but this was so infuriating to be able to try and take things that you already owned by spending over $100 on stuff and realizing, oh, these tiles aren't upgraded because I didn't buy the game again. So to basically get everything deluxified, you had to basically buy everything again. Um, that is atrocious, atrocious business. That's something EA would do
Yes.
in video games. So what I ended up doing is after I painstakingly tried to take all my old stuff and replace it and realize, oh, I don't have everything. I went on Etsy and bought a 3D printed insert for the stuff I already had, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. Um, now why I have confirmation on this is because they have since set out an email. Um, I even started. So I called City of Gods Deluxe Master Set a solution and an overdue apology.
Mm.
Like, and it's long. Like, and it's there. And to be fair, there is something about like I've said it multiple times. I don't keep up with Kickstarter updates. Um, every now and then I'll look through and see what they're doing, but if it's not a hey, we're going into production or we're shipping games, I don't pay attention because these games take so long to come out that it's not worth getting excited about it when it's not going to be here for a year. So if they had come out and said, "Hey, here's what we're doing with the insert," and I missed that, that's on me. No, on their Kickstarter page, it was still a unique, like almost game trays insert, and then it wasn't that. But them sending out an email talking about how it's like the insert, we will not sugarcoat it. The insert we delivered was not what we promised. You fucking think? And at what point was there like some stupid CEO was like, "Hey, don't tell them. Like they're not gonna care. We already got their money. What are they gonna do?"
So isn't this back on crowdfunding again?
That's the second that's the
Okay.
second reason why I'm justified because they're going on Kickstarter again to with folded space,
Gotcha.
which is I don't like folded space all that much, but I understand that most people do. Um, I much prefer game found or not necessarily broken token, but wooden inserts. But they are going with folded space as like the company to make the insert. But yeah, there are two. If it was just an overdue apology or whatever, or if they never said anything, I'd be like, well, I guess people, I'm the minority. But no, them realizing that they fucked up and going back, which is kind of frustrating to be like, hey, we're going back on Kickstarter, so please give us more money to do this. It's like you fucked over your backers. You should eat that cost and provide people who backed the game with the insert that you failed to deliver on. But
Yeah.
that would assume that corporations care about the people who give them money. Um, yeah, like you might be wondering why isn't this on worst? It's because it's just the deluxe upgrade. Like it's I have everything for Teotihuacan. It doesn't take away from the actual game. So I was so excited because it's a sexy and I guess this is not the first time. I think the La Granja insert is ass. So Board and Dice just doesn't really know what to do about inserts apparently. So
Yeah.
but I can definitely tell you I will not be going on their next Kickstarter because I
Yes.
already bought the insert to store everything. And this is a luxury item at the end of the day. And once I bought that insert, I was like, I really don't need wooden technologies or anything. Everything works perfectly fine, so I really don't need. Maybe I'll get the
Yeah.
playmats again, but I sold everything. The playmats were nice.
Yeah.
So, and they were comically large too. Like the resources were like that thick and like that big around, and it's like, all right, can I get one wood? Yep, here you go. So, I don't know. Yeah, after kind of seeing how they did the deluxeified version of it, I was like, this was the first time I'm like, I think I'm good with what I got.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So,
That'll work.
yeah, it fucking cracked me up though seeing them go back on Kickstarter.
Mhm.
Um, and it sucks because it's Board and Dice, and we just know they make great games. But I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know. The also they went on Kickstarter recently for like accessories promos for their
Oh
games.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
are they Like, did they not do well this year? Are they like like keeping their head above water? Are they about to go bankrupt?
I don't know.
Maybe if they
You
keep pulling
wonder.
this shit, I won't care. So, yeah, that's my number three, the Teotihuacan City of Gods Deluxe Master Set.
All right, my number three is a crossover.
Ooh, I'm gonna. It's Undergrove. You played it yesterday on
No,
Christmas and was sad.
no.
I'm assuming it's Primal.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I really don't have much more to say about this that we already didn't talk about. It's just one of those things. I was pretty pumped to play this. I mean, it just looks awesome and everything. And like you said, the gameplay was fine.
Hmm.
It's just I think the campaign kind of killed it for both of us, and that was
Yeah.
kind of the thing. Oh, got a different.
Especially because we had played Leviathan Wilds,
Mhm.
and whenever you go to fight one of those bosses, it's like a card,
Yeah,
and it's like, oh man, I'm more invested in that card, that paragraph of text, than the entire story of Primal.
yeah, and like I said, this was and it's I was really hyped. That's why it's the three, because I this was one that I really was excited to play.
Yeah.
And like if it like you said, also playing one shots would be fine.
Yeah.
But it's just, man, I don't know that I because half the time you would be reading the story and I wouldn't even know what the hell was going on. I would just
Yeah.
check out and be looking at my cards and
Yeah.
stuff
You're
just
like,
because.
I want to go home.
So yeah, I mean, there's really not much more I can really add to it. I mean, it's kind of the same reasons you talked about earlier. You know,
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, again, this one, I mean, for really, it's like looking back, I feel like this should be our number one. Um,
mm,
yeah. Each enemy fights completely different. Like they have their theme. They nail it for a Monster Hunter ripoff for all intents and purposes.
right.
Um, and I never thought I'd say the day where Monster Hunter has a better campaign, but oh boy, yeah. And I ended up having to ship this game uh, to because the guy who bought it lived nearby. And by nearby, I thought was Kansas City. It was St. Louis, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm not doing an 8 hour round trip to deliver this. I'll just ship it, and it actually showed up okay.
Good.
So I went into UPS and I was like, can you write fragile on this or something? And they were like, yeah, we don't do that. I'm like, yeah, of course. Why would you? That's why all these large games show up fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
But yeah, check it out if you can. I actually think they do pretty good sales from what I hear on their website. You can get it, but
They have 20% off everything in their shop right now going.
okay. Yeah, that's not bad. That is not bad. All right. My number two, this is more of a I actually think this game is pretty good. Out of all the games, well, Primal I think I bumped down to like a 7. Um this is also sitting around that. And this is kind of more of a realization of how much my tastes have changed since this game was originally announced. Uh and I do love this theme. The artwork is a major reason why I backed it originally anyway. And that is Unconscious Mind. I love this cover. Like, and the
Yes.
artwork in this game is just amazing. With Vincent Dutrait and Andrew Bosley co-design, not co-designing, but like co-arting in the game. This is a game centered around Sigmund Freud's theories on the subconscious, where you are, I guess, a protege of Freud, and you're trying to cure as many patients as possible to become the next whatever they called it. Um, this game, funny enough, normally whenever I go to learn games, if it has a How to Play by Paul Grogan or something, I'll just watch that, or a like Teach and Play by John Gitz Games, and usually that's enough for me to be like, oh, okay, I know how to play. Um, this one for some reason was not clicking. Like I don't know if I just wasn't in the zone or in the mood to learn it, but then so I ended up reading the rules and then playing it, and I'm like, oh man, this game isn't really all that complex. I mean, you have various actions, but this game, funny enough, feels like it wants to be a not Vince Dutrait, a Vita Lasarda game without having the actual action complexities of that. So it it is kind of a solid entry into a heavier Euro, because you're just given unlimited actions pretty much to kind of do everything that you need. I don't know what it was about this game, but while it's thematic and you get to do a lot throughout the game, I felt it ultimately kind of just too easy and boring. And this is a theme that is right up my alley. Shit that I studied all in college of psychology and the human mind, and even the way the patients are structured, where they have like an ability, but they have these laminate kind of canvas style cards that go over it. They have two dreams. They have their dormant and their what was the other word? They basically have two dreams. One that is kind of like, oh, here's what I've dreamt up yesterday, but then other deeper dreams that you have to work on curing them of, uh, before you can kind of have their ability for the rest of the game, or you can get end game scoring. There's all that is fine. Everything in the game is fine. I just felt like you can kind of do whatever you wanted at any given point. You're overwhelmed, not overwhelmed, but you have so many action tokens that you can kind of just always do stuff, and I never felt challenged throughout this game. I never felt like I had to make good decisions or tough decisions whenever it came to my turn. It was, oh, yep, I can do that. I can do this. Oh, flush with Reese. Oh, there's more hearts that I need to cure my patients. Oh, there's another patient cured. You know, because you have this like wheel of three different um genres, and there's like three tiers in each of those. Basically, the strength of the color, and that's your resource for the game. And you can kind of almost always get the one that you need to be able to cure, because each dream card has those types of resources you need to be able to discard the dream to give uh, therapy points so you can cure these patients. And never did I ever struggle trying to get them or be efficient on my turn. Oh, I need to kind of do this and this and this, and now I can finally cure them to get a bunch of victory points. Nah, it's yep, there I go. Oh, cured another one. Come on in. Yep, cured. Let's talk about your dream. Cured. So I think for a lot of people they'll like that. I know most people don't want to come into a game like this and think for 2 hours and just be like, oh man, if I miss step once, my game's over. There is something about being too efficient, or a game wanting you to be too efficient. But the opposite wasn't exciting for me either, where it was just always whatever I wanted to do, I got to do. And it's like, why am I even doing this? I can just say I scored 250 points and not even worry. So, and to be fair, I've only played the base game. I know there's modules that come in the base game, and there's a Nightmares expansion. Those might make the game more intriguing, and this one probably more so out of even my number one. This is the one I still own because I do really like the theme, and the game systems are good, but I think I was just kind of maybe I'm just not in this mood to play these kinds of games anymore. So it when I did finally get it played, I was like, yeah, all right. That was that. And then
Yeah.
I moved on. So I don't know if this is even I know this is on people's radars. There's no way that they're not aware of this game, but I'm curious if this is on anyone's top 10 of the year. I haven't watched anyone's top 10s yet, but
The Dice Towers, most of them had it in their top 10.
okay. Was it like super high? Do you know? Because I could see this hitting
A
8.
couple of them were really high.
Okay. Yeah. So not that I compare my top 10 of the year
Right.
is going to be so different from everyone else's,
Oh,
but
yes.
this, yeah, I mean, a year ago, Seth this would have been top 10 for sure. But now I'm just like, yeah, all right, this is a game. That was fine. So, but because of the theme and the artwork, I was like, man, I'm gonna love this game. And I didn't. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
So that's my number two, Unconscious Mind.
All right. So these next two are the two that I own. Um, and yes, they are my most disappointing on this list, but I still need to dive into them a little bit more.
Yeah.
My number two is the next game in a series of games that I own all of them. And there's still some digging I want to do on this game, but all I heard for months was how this version of the game was the best version of this game. It's any problems you had with the first ones, this fixes it, and all that stuff. And then we played it, and it was a miserable time, at least that time. And that is Undaunted 2200 Callisto.
I ruined it for you.
Well, no, it was just that it was. I mean, because of the stuff we talked about when we played it, it's like, um, we played the intro board,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's just set to be stronger on one side than the other, or
Yeah.
what. But it didn't help that you were just rolling a dice from clear across the entire board and hitting people too.
Yeah.
Um, this is one I still want to dig into this because I like Undaunted, and I
Yeah.
like the historical stuff. So I don't know if maybe the theme is a weird thing for me too. Um,
Yeah,
but
I think
yeah,
I
go ahead.
imagine it would because one, you're a history major, or
Mhm.
you were. Um, and at least in the World War II one, if a game feels unbalanced, you can at least justify a little bit with, oh, this is the battle. Yeah, the British were on the losing side of this. Now, I've always had an issue with that as a game design because it's like, well, then why the fuck am I playing the game if I can just go on Wikipedia and read about the battle? Um, but here they also had like the tiniest text of 2 pages of lore. It's like, I don't give a shit.
Well,
Um,
I like some of the decisions they made. Now, I like that the game came with a bunch of double-sided boards, so it didn't even have
yes.
all the tiles and crap. So that was a benefit. They
Yeah.
deal with elevation a lot in this one, which I know they touched on a little bit in one of the other Undaunteds, but this one elevation is a little more used. Um, and it brings in the mechs, which also is something that vehicles, I guess, were brought in on one of the
Yeah,
Undaunted.
the mechs were, I mean, clearly overpowered, but I liked how
Mhm.
they had it to where it's like, well, you need to build to use them because like to move you need this card, to attack you need the other one. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a two-man to mech. That's kind of neat. Um, but if the person who has the mechs gets those, and it's like, great, I get to move and attack and mow down your gorilla regular human soldiers.
Yeah, and that was, I think, the thing is that opening mission that we played, like you had two mechs and I had zero.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
don't
don't
fuck with
know.
the corporation. You
Yeah.
learned. You learned that day.
So it's just one of those deals like I'm gonna keep playing it. I want to try it
Yeah.
solo and just go through that little solo campaign just to see if that changes anything. But with all the hype this game was getting, for everybody's like, this is the definitive version of Undaunted, blah 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 blah.
I mean, and it
I
certainly might be solo. I despise this game. And I wanted to give it another shot because it had been so long, and I was like, maybe the sci-fi version will make it work. But yeah, literally when we played, I moved out a little bit and then proceeded to never move again and shoot and just hoped I rolled high. Because I didn't
Yep.
need, I think in this one they got rid of the nat 10s being
Yes.
auto hits.
Yeah.
Great, that's awesome. Um, but there was never a shot I had to make where I needed, like, oh, I just need to roll a 10. It was like, if I roll an 8, 9, or 10, I'll hit you. Would you look at that?
Yep.
And it was more of like, you started to catch up. Like, you did start to kill a lot of my units, and I was like, oh man, he might pull this out of the bag. But then I started rolling well again. I'm like, yep, not moving, shooting, and 10, and 9. And there you go. I win.
Yep. So I'll try it solo still some, but it just definitely did not live up to the hype, to me at least,
Yeah.
from what way everybody was cheesing over it.
And it might when you play it solo.
Mhm.
I would be curious if people are saying it's the best version of Undaunted as a solo experience or as a 1v1 skirmish game. But yeah, I've I've never enjoyed this. It's too random.
Yeah.
It's random of the deck on top of randomness of the dice. So And it's a 1v1 skirmish game that just makes you feel bad when luck isn't going your way.
Yeah.
All right. That's so funny, though. That cracks me up. Okay. My number one. I am not going to lie. This probably, if I gave any kind of shit, might have been in my worst. But I understand that this is just not a game for me. And I am 100% sure that every single person who has made a top 10, it is their number one. The fact that this game has been on the hotness since it came out on BGG blows my mind. But the community for this game is really starting to get kind of toxic. I bet these are Overwatch players because they are so salty if you do not like this game. And this is the sole reason why I said at the very beginning of the game, nothing on this list is I deem a bad game. It's just the hype for the game or whatever reason makes it disappointing. So my number one is
Mm.
Arcs. And I think at this point, Um, one, this was a reason why I did a video on with my friend Ethan on ranking. Because he loves this game. Like this would be his number one for the year for sure. Maybe that or Six Siege, but I'm pretty sure it's this one. And he's done a whole bunch of videos on Arcs at 115 Gaming. Gonna plug him. If you want to learn strategy on this game, he has played it a shit ton. I have only played it a handful of times, and this just isn't for me. But the reason why I bring this up is because I gave this game a 6 out of 10, which now apparently means it's a 2 out of 10. Means that I threatened Cole Worley's life because he designed it. That's what the reaction of what people thought. He watched my discussion, and while disagreeing with a majority of what we said, he understood where we were coming from, and he's like, 6 out of 10 is not a bad score. Um, but man, this one, I'm so shocked at how popular this one is. Um, it was almost so, I mean, it was so popular that it had me almost play the campaign, which is really how this game was designed. Now, to be fair, I haven't played the what was it, Blight? The Blighted Reach. I haven't played the campaign, which apparently is like a 3 act short campaign where it's kind of like the first two. From what I hear, the first two games are kind of your setup for a big epic finale that make you a little bit more unique. So apparently that's how the game was originally designed, and then they kind of stripped it to do the standalone, just skirmish kind of stand base game. Um, but yeah, this one just ended up being super disappointing because, I mean, Cole Worley is of Root in fame, and Root still to this day continues to be banger after banger. Like every time they announce an expansion, I'm just like, oh, more Root. Like it's that for some reason that one has just really, really worked for me, but his other games just hasn't. Oath completely fell flat, and and then this one, I was again backing it off of name alone, kind of like with Undergrove, where it's like I'm kind of backing this on name alone, and I really just need to stop doing that because it hasn't panned out all that well.
Right.
Um, and look, this is a game that if I almost jumped in to try the Arcs campaign on Tabletop Simulator just to maybe go in with a different frame of mind now that I know what the campaign brings. But at the end of the day, for a highly aggressive war game that like because I remember someone on Reddit posted like, "Hey, for some reason Arcs," because now this community for this game has made other people who don't like this one feel inferior. No, you don't. Well, you must be playing it wrong. No, maybe it's just not my fucking style. Like, it's like I'm sorry that you're not gonna have enough people to play this game with. So you have to, and because you're isolating other players.
Send
But
all hate mail to Board Games Unlocked.
yeah, and then it'll warm my house for the upcoming winter as I burn them. Um, Actually, no, put a return address too. Just show up in the middle of the night. Uh, but so someone put a Reddit post saying, why didn't it work for us? Yeah, here are the reasons. Here's how we played it. And most of the comments were basically saying, well, you played it wrong, which is just the most egotistical response ever. But a lot of people were saying Arcs is a highly aggressive game. If you are not a perpetually aggressive player, this isn't going to be the game for you. And that's perfectly fine. If you're meant to be on the offensive, if combat is meant to be to reward the offensive player, that's perfectly fine. Except the trick taking element of this game made me realize I don't like trick taking games. The only ones that I had played that I thought I liked the genre, I had now realized it was cooperative. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's why. Because in this game, I've even seen other people say that every game of Arcs, every hand of cards you get is you're always trying to make the best of a bad situation. You always have a shitty hand, so you're trying to do the best with that. And I'm like, that's not fun for me. Like, I don't like being like, because to be able to attack, for example, you need to have drawn a card that lets you do that. To be able to do a certain, you need to have a card that lets you do that. And to take initiative, for example, to try and set the tone or set the trick, you need to have drawn cards to be able to do that. Because there's like, you can kind of like if someone plays a card and you want to take initiative from them, you can do certain actions to do so and guarantee that you're getting initiative, which would be fine, except for me, if you don't have a card, like if I don't have a card that's a higher value than the one you played, then I have to effectively burn my turn and get punished to take initiative from you, is how I view it. So it's like, well, I'm getting dicked on with my hands of cards, so I guess I'll just fuck myself again by just to take initiative so I can have some control next time. I just don't like that. I don't like being like, well, I wish I could attack. Here's a prime opportunity for me to attack because I want to try and take the warlord ambition, except I have no way to attack. So that's fun. Um, yeah. The game looks cool. Again, I've heard the expansion gives you different unique abilities that kind of eventually set you apart for a major finale, but I think the core element of this game is the reason why I just don't it just doesn't work for me. Like if I want to be able to do something in a game as an action, I should just be able to kind of do that. Especially in a war game where it's like I would like to attack. Oh, nope, you can't. Okay. And I had a friend that I played this with because I was like, why does this game not work? Why does the trick taking card element not work, but games like War of the Ring, with randomness of dice, why does that work? And luckily, in our discussion, he answered that. He's like, it's because rolling the dice in War of the Ring, like, doesn't like his die roll doesn't affect me. In this game, it's a shared deck of cards. So the cards that you get do affect me. The how you play them will actually affect me. So yeah, that randomness just was very, very frustrating. But I am so obviously in the minority here, more so than I feel like with any other game, like Onk or what was another one that I didn't really like that people freaked out about? Onk's the main one. Oh, Scarface. That was
Yeah.
the so those are the two, but I think those made the worst. This one was just so disappointing because I love Roots so much, and I was like maybe this will be another game by Cole that I'll like, and it just does not work for me.
Yeah. I'm not really a fan of any of these games. I like
Yeah.
the art style doesn't do it for me on these. I played Root
Mm-hmm.
like twice and that's been the only ones I've ever even touched.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So unfortunately, this is one that I don't have. I'm just gonna stick with Root. Cole just doesn't seem like a designer for me anymore,
yeah.
except for that. But yeah, I this one would hit number one immediately. And if someone needed another player, maybe this one is kind of like because it's number one and disappointing. It's teetering on what I deem to be worst of the year. But I understand that this game design is solid. Like it's clearly well crafted and fine tuned. But But if you just don't like trick taking, this game isn't for you.
Right.
So, and I apparently don't. Not competitive trick taking anyway. So you can have all this fancy stuff, all this extra, because everything else about like the unique characters you can get, the leaders that you can have that will just give you like a cool ability, but also like a punishment, almost like the Teotihuacan gods, where it's like, hey, you have a really busted ability, but here's also a negative. I always love that. But if at the end of the day, how you play the game just isn't going to vibe with you, which this doesn't for me, um, it's just not going to do much.
Yeah.
And if you're on my side, if your arcs just wasn't for you, don't let the fans treat you any different.
That will
So that's my
work.
number one. Arcs.
All right. My number one is a game I was super, super excited for this year. Um, and it is the second edition of a game that came out a few years ago. And this one came out with an expansion. We actually played this game and both kind of had the same similar thoughts on it. Actually, you actually got a copy of it too, I believe. But I'm still going to keep it because I need to try some stuff out with it still before I make my final conclusion. But the disappointment is real, and that is for Dungeons of Infinity second edition.
Oh, was that this year?
Yep, the second edition was 2024.
Gotcha.
So, uh,
Damn.
yeah, this one was one that it came out. The original came out in 2021.
Okay.
And then 2024 was the updated Sky Kingdom Games version of it, and it component wise, it's awesome. I mean, it's got the Sky Kingdom Games component quality spin on it, the game tray character uh, deals. It's got good stuff all around. Um, but then we played it, and I don't know what it was. I mean, did it feel dated to you, even though it
Oh,
was?
a million percent.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
I'm
It's
like,
like it was a 2021 design still, but
yeah.
it still felt dated even with this new version.
Yeah, you know how video games come out and they're like 8-bit art or like Sea of Stars is a good example. Is a JRPG that came out last year that felt like Chrono Trigger from the 90s. And that can work. You're like, "Oh man, this feels like recent but yet nostalgic in some way." I don't think board games can do that. It feels like that was the goal here. You remember old shitty games from 2001?
Right.
Well, I made that same design. It's like, ah. Yeah, man, if I didn't consider second edition because I this would be on my worst.
Yeah.
I do not like this game and I have tried the campaign.
Yeah. And see, I
So
haven't yet. That's why it's on
it
this list and
sucks,
not the
dude.
other.
This game is not good. And I almost kind of feel bad because the designer that they took it from didn't he passed away, right?
Yeah, he passed away, and then
Yeah,
they
and I
yeah.
feel bad because if like he put his heart and soul into it, then it's like yeah, fuck you for your game that they took to keep your
Mhm.
memory alive. The game isn't good.
Well,
Yeah,
it felt dated mainly because when we were playing through that one adventure, it was like the level up system was so slow
yeah.
with it too. And
It's
then
clearly yeah designed for the campaign.
right, and that's why I just want to try it, even though I'm not my
Yeah,
my expectations are tempered a little bit coming into the campaign version of it.
yeah.
But
But let me
but
tell you about the campaign. The level up system, yeah, in the one shots are so slow, you might get to level two. Because really, yeah, you get like 1 XP for casting one of your abilities, and then every time you hit, which I mean, I will say the inverted die idea,
Mhm.
where it's like, hey, to hit you need a 14 or a 17. It's not like 17 or higher. It's 1 to 17. So you're almost always going to hit, which is nice. But you get 1 XP for hitting. The problem is that it's not the leveling up that's the issue that I found out. It's that this game is so fucking boring. The items are lame. So the loot that you're trying to get is lame. The tiles, the cards you're coming up against are lame. So leveling up is like the only kind of exciting thing, but then you look at your ability and you're like, ah, here's my level 3 ability. All right, that's over there now. And I played the campaign with my girlfriend, and she picked this bomber character who couldn't have a item in her right hand because that's how she threw her bombs.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And her bomb she could throw across tiles, and it did like AoE. So if you were fighting 9 minions, she had like a accuracy roll. To she'd pick like a minion and be like, this is the one I want to hit, and roll for accuracy. Except the accuracy was almost always gonna hit, and these bombs would do so much damage. It would like do like 15 damage to the ones she hit and 5 to everyone around.
Mhm.
So I mean, they were unique, but I'm like the tiles and the abilities and the story sucks. This game is painfully boring, dude.
Yeah.
So do
Yeah.
not expect
I'm
much from the
not.
campaign.
Yeah, that's the only reason it's on this one and not the other list is because I still want to try out that
Hmm.
side of it, but I'm not
Yeah.
expecting a whole lot.
Yeah,
Um,
and even the idea that they have for the campaign is kind of neat, where it's like, hey, there are 10 characters in the game. Each dungeon story, there are 10 stories, each being three chapters, focuses on one character. I'm like, okay, that's neat. You get some depth for that. We got 2 full chapters in when I was like, I do not care. Like,
yeah.
you know what? I think I'm gonna do some fun reading of Primal The Awakening's
Oh
campaign
God.
rather than listen to this shit. And this is voice acted too. It's good, but man, you want to talk about generic tropes of characters and what they should have done. They should have doubled down even more because the campaign for like the chapter, for example, will tell you this one character needs to be in here. So someone has to play that person.
Mm,
But then they have other characters. So my girlfriend was playing the bomber character. Well, she's not in the story, but there were a bunch of other characters that were in the story. It's like, well, okay, why not make it to be these four have to be played or choosing between these four so that whenever the narration is going off, everyone at the table who's playing those characters are represented instead of being like, wait, I'm not here.
right.
It's just that was weird. And it's not a shit on Sky Kingdom Games. They didn't design it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with this one. I mean, I was super hyped for this one, especially after Isofarian Guard and all that stuff. And
hmm
I like dungeon crawls anyway and stuff like that. But
yeah,
yeah, it's just too dated.
it
It's
really is like,
yeah.
and here's an, and it's a, I'm gonna keep talking on this game because it would be either here or on my worst list, but I didn't see it as 2024. Um, the minion fights are, it's annoying because you have the sprawling dungeon, and then whenever you get into a fight, you have to be like, well, shift all that over so I can make my grid of cards that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
minions just take forever to kill. Some of them, if you have the Sky Kingdom version, have these Tenebrous clay horns that
Mhm.
just one shot you.
What about that fucking track? That's the thing that pissed me off the most.
That's the threat track.
Yeah, how it ramped up so fast. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
what you did. Like,
everything you did, exploring a new tile, moved it up. Fighting, going into combat, moved it up. And then it's like, oh, okay, so by round 3, the dungeon lord's here, ready to
yeah.
just gape you. And it's like, okay, man, I'm glad this dungeon lord's here. I haven't leveled up. Yeah, like never would I have seen the day where I thought Mass Mora or Massive Darkness 1 were more tame than this one. Those are
Yes.
more fun than this. So,
Yep.
yeah, this one is not good. But I can see why it's undisappointing.
Yeah.
I would have put into worse because I do not like. There's no redeeming qualities for this game for me. So it like there's redeeming qualities for all of the ones, and disappointing at least. I actively think this game is bad, but that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. I see why it's your number one here.
I just want to try the other aspect before
Yeah,
I
I'm fully
crush it.
expecting a message from you being like, "Yep, you were right.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
This game sucked." Or I mean, maybe you thought Gladiator 2 was movie of the year, so
I did not think it was movie of the year. It's a
you're-
decent, good movie.
it did not need to exist, but that's a whole nother list. Um, anyway, that's it, everyone. Those are our top 5 disappointing games of 2024. Probably should have said it at the beginning, but if you made it all the way here, but we'll fully feel free to disagree with us and let us know why these games you really liked, why they met your expectations. These are just ones that didn't for one reason or another. Were disappointing to us. Keep it civil. I have no patience for anyone just being a dick for the sake of being a dick. I'll just delete it and you'll look like a fucking idiot. But more than happy to understand why these games worked really well for you or why you liked them. But that's it, everyone. Let us know what games were disappointing for you in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.